Black people secured their freedoms after the Civil War. It is a historical fact, Don. Just study it. Only after their Second Amendment rights were secured.
They were not secured their freedoms after the Civil War. That is not, you are discounting Reconstruction. You're discounting a whole host of things that happened after the Civil War when it comes to African Americans, including the whole reason that the Civil Rights Movement happened is because Black people did not secure their freedoms after the Civil War, and that things turned around. People tried to change the freedoms that were supposed to happen.
And you know, Hart, that I find insulting is when you say today Black Americans don't have those rights after we have gone through civil rights revolution in this country.
You are sitting here telling an African American about the rights and what you find insulting about the way I live, the skin I live in every day.
Now I got time today to teach this lesson. I do. I'm making the time today, and I'm going to teach it every opportunity that I get, drawn from Dr. Carol Anderson's book, Race and Guns in a Fatally Unequal America. The Second Amendment, Race and Guns in a Fatally Unequal America. Let's pull some excerpts from an interview that Dr. Anderson did on NPR. The language of the amendment, and she's referring to the Second Amendment, Anderson says, was crafted to ensure that slave owners could quickly crush any rebellion or resistance from those whom they enslaved. And she says the right to bear arms, presumably guaranteed to all citizens, has been repeatedly denied to Black Americans. I got time today. Thank you, Dr. Carol Anderson. Further in that interview, you saw incredible restrictions being put in place about limiting access to arms. And this is across the board for free Blacks and particularly for the enslaved. And with each uprising, the laws became even more strict, even more definitive about who could and who could not bear arms. And so free Blacks were particularly proscribed. And so we see this, for instance, in Georgia, where Georgia had a law that restricted the carrying of guns. Good God Almighty. I'm making time today. We're gonna continue this lesson, but I encourage folks to go get the second, Race and Guns in a Fatally Unequal America. The nerve of Vivek, the nerve of him. And if my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, was walking the face of the earth today, she would say that he has more nerve than a brass ass monkey. Well, I am speaking my grandmother's language today, the nerve, and talking about he offended. I'm offended that he offended. What the hell he offended about? Gonna try to tell Don Lemon, Lord have mercy. Okay, so that's part one of the lesson. We're gonna keep going deeper into this thing, but it was certainly good to see Representative Ro Khanna weigh in on this, throwing his support behind Don Lemon. Let's put up with the representative, what the congressman, what he tweeted. Don Lemon was right. As an Indian American, I was profoundly embarrassed by Vivek's lecturing a Black man about Black history. The truth is that the Black Civil Rights Movement paved the way for the 1965 Immigration Act so that Vivek's family or mine could come to America. We owe a huge debt. Go ahead, team. Put Jordan up and put me back up. Let me further make this abundantly clear for the folks all the way in the back that the Black liberation struggle, from chattel slavery to the 60s to this very moment, that other folks, as Congressman Ro Khanna has laid out, that other immigrants to this country owe a great debt of gratitude, and every other social justice movement in this country drew from the liberation movement of Black people. Hello, somebody. So the nerve of this dude who doesn't understand that history, who doesn't care to understand that history, to try to lecture Don Lemon or any other Black person that understands this history or about what brought freedom and liberation to Black people. He is wrong all day long and twice on Sunday, and it is offensive as hell. Jordan, your thoughts?
Well, that's gonna be hard to follow, but I will try. One thing I want to point out, he uses this rhetorical flourish often. This is a historical fact, and that kind of plays to the ignorance of most Americans and especially his base. He says something that is baseless and totally untrue, like the NRA helped Black Americans achieve civil rights through gun ownership. That is patently false, and you can see that in some of the few gun restrictions the NRA supported throughout history, including the Mulford Act in 1967, which was a direct response to the Black Panthers open carrying.
That's it.
They purport to support open carry in every state, but when pressed and when it's Black Panthers doing it, then suddenly, oh, hey, we need gun control.
That's it.
So that is total BS. But Vivek Ramaswamy is like the perfect candidate for the racist Republican white voter who doesn't want to be true with themselves about who they are and what they believe. Because he's going out there and saying, hey, all of this diversity, equity, and inclusion stuff on the left, it's crazy. You're right to think it's crazy. And when that is the messenger, someone who is not white, it makes them feel good about their conscience and also their bigotry and xenophobia and racism. Because hey, it's not them saying that any sort of equity or diversity or inclusion initiative is bad. It's Vivek saying it. Then they can just point to him and he's just kind of the conduit for them scapegoating their own xenophobia and racism and bigotry. It is really insidious when you have people like that who exploit that type of messaging because they don't fit into the stereotypical mold. It's really, really unfortunate.
Yeah, it is, Jordan. And like you said, he uses it's a historical fact. When in fact it's not a historical fact, and the man is lying, is ahistorical, everything that he said. But even like just the veracity by which he was making those statements, just really talking down to Don Lemon. As you can see, Jordan, as you said, I was a hard act to follow. I'm heated about this thing. Every time I watch that, it just makes me just ooh wee. I'm having an ooh wee moment. And let's go ahead and put up this chart. That just a reminder for Vivek and others who think like him, whether you're a Republican or not. I got time today. I want you to look at this, American slavery 1619. I want you to understand this stuff right here. Segregate, so 246 years, almost 250 years. We got segregation, almost 90 years. And from 1954 to the 2000s. All right, we still working on this experiment. It's not done. It's not done. And for this dude to sit up here and say that the Second Amendment provided liberation, the hell that it did. Again, Black people were enslaved at the time that the amendment was ratified. Y'all better go ahead and pick up Dr. Carol Anderson's book. Yeah, I got time today. And I'm sick of the foolishness. Especially from non-Black folks of color who gonna sit up here and be the cloak for these folks to push these kind of racial ideologies and anti-Blackness, racism, anti-Blackness. I want you to duly note it, what I am saying about anti-Blackness, because people always throwing up racism. I'm laying out the anti-Blackness on top of it. And it's a shame that Don Lemon had to go through that with this dude.